in our earliest periods of our life, what happens is that our genes get activated by the environment. So those are the extrinsic factors that I'm talking about. And so this all can be linked to what we talked just now, a couple of moments ago, about adopting our parents' beliefs, behaviors, and all of that. So when we're little, uh, our genes activate from the events that happen around us. So also we have the important aspect of the intrinsic genes, sorry, intrinsic factors, which are the mother's nutrition, the mother's state, biology, if she smoked, if she didn't smoke, if she drank alcohol, and so that also plays a very important part in our birth, and here we have that influence of the genes, on the genes, and how they activate. But also the extrinsic factors influence us even today. As an example, when we eat food, the genes that are responsible for uh, the digestive system to digest the food activate. And so we have this constant motion of gene activation and shutting down. And this can be linked to the fact that everything is fluid, and when we're talking about extroversion and introversion, as an example, when we are let's say feeling lonely, uh, the gene for that activates the hormones, as an example, um, the hormones for depression that are linked to those emotions, that gene activates. And when we are feeling a little bit better, the gene for shutting down the hormones that are involved with depression shut down. And so we have this constant change in our body and immune system, even. There's research that also proves that our immune system depends on our emotions, and the stress levels, and the depression, the levels of depression that are in our lives. So and also, this is the reason, exactly the reason why a lot of patients of cancer um, are go to, are giving the advice that they need to, uh, feel more positive emotions, to focus on appreciation, to try and feel less stress in their lives. And so that's why they're very important. uh, So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Another thing that I've heard with like introverts and extroverts is that on the extroverted end, um the way that they recharge their energy levels is through
Hmm.
talking to people, social interaction, whereas introverts recharge by being alone. But I mean, we can kind of go into the areas too of like for example, if someone's depressed, right, and they have a lot of trauma and then they withdraw,
Hmm.
you could say their energy levels are already low. And I don't think people who are introverted or people that are like that necessarily seek to up their energy levels, if that makes sense. Like they don't go out of their way and be like, I'm gonna stay alone for the purpose of recharging myself. It's more of like, I don't want to deal with people. You know, I hate the world. I don't. I'm just gonna keep
Yeah,
to
I
myself. Whereas,
understand your point. Yeah.
yeah, whereas
Hmm.
extroverts, people who go out and get energy from people, or get energy from social interactions. You could also say maybe there's a dark side to it too, where it's like you're a vampire and you take people's energy. That's why you talk to people. But at the end of the day, energy levels, how does that, you know, what does that have to do with being introverted, extroverted, and how you kind of, um, stuff like that? How do people or express introversion, extroversion?
Yeah, well, basically everything can be linked to trauma at the end and how we cope. That's like that knowledge can be applied to everything. When we're talking about the cases of, there are a lot of cases of introverted people who love spending time with themselves, and that's, if that's conscious, and everything that is conscious is healthy. So If, as an example, you are a person who loves spending time, uh, with less people, or alone, in a certain period of the day, or you have your own habits, it's normal. That's in fact, a lot of people who go on their spiritual endeavors choose to do that by themselves, with themselves, because that they felt authentically that that's what they need in order to achieve that goal, or that purpose that they need to achieve. And even in general, if they feel completely safe and present with themselves, that's a very normal, authentic thing to do. Also, there are cases where that can be like an escapism. They withdraw because of enmeshment trauma. Enmeshment trauma is when you learn to adapt by giving yourself up and your boundaries up to in order to adapt to a certain environment or social group. So as an example, I talked about this the last episode. I'm just gonna remind the
Yeah.
viewers and yeah, and you, that basically most the people who are most enmeshed, those are usually people who are most emotionally unavailable, and people who withdraw the most. Because you know I don't remember where this was from, but I remember someone saying, uh, if you hate other people so much, then why are you so comfortable, as an example, with your cat or with your dog? It's like, why why do you feel like yourself when you're with your cat? uh and what that made me think is that because you don't feel like you have to give up anything or sacrifice anything to be with your cat. Your cat sees you as you are, and you see the cat as it is, and you don't feel this energetical, uh, you know, kind of. It's like the cat is not draining your energy. You feel complete and peaceful just by sitting with your cat, and you don't feel the urge that you need to do something to behave in a certain way. And what amish people experienced is, as an example, in their homes, they have their own room, and they sit in their room, and they have they feel complete, they feel present with themselves. And suddenly their mom or dad walks in, and they completely shift, and they have to become this other person, and they don't feel good, and they suddenly feel like their energy is going nowhere, it's draining, and they feel this tiredness, this, like, why do I feel this way? They're not even aware, their energy just you know does all of these, goes through these changes, but because of not being aware of the original events that made us feel and cope this way, and the decisions that we made, to give and sacrifice our own boundaries, or uh, parts of ourselves, in order to be present with other people, in order to have this connection, in order to survive, to adapt. um, and what is also interesting, when we we use this point, when we look through this lens, and we see extroverted people, and you're just, as an example, I'm amazed by how complete they feel. We have also, the escapism part here, the shadow aspect, where a lot of extroverted people can also be extroverted because they avoid sitting with themselves. It's the polar opposite. But when we're talking about healthy extroversion, um it's, and how that affects their energy. It's like you feel this, how they are charged, just like you said, by talking to other people. And that's because they don't feel the need to sacrifice their own personality traits or boundaries to change themselves, or in order to uh, talk to or communicate or to connect with other people. They approve of themselves as they are. And these kinds of, moments tell you a lot about the person. And when we're talking about, the aspect of extroversion, introversion, um, and it's just so interesting to look into, different types of people because of this. And everything can be authentic. That's what I wanted to point out. If you truly feel like it's self-loving, as an example, to have a certain period of your life or of the day, to be with yourself, that's very great. That's great for the person, and it's, again, it's very diverse for everyone. And we need to look into a lot of factors that surround the individual in order to, determine what is the most healthiest thing and conscious thing to do, and for themselves to do, to become conscious of. And, that implies for themselves as well.
How do you think like probably a Neshman or yeah, Neshman like upbringing, all this family dynamics, like how does that affect people romantically, like who they date, like who they're into?
Ooh, relationships, the most fun topic to talk about. I have so much to say. Well, relationships are basically, they reflect everything that we're not conscious of. And you know, we all love to think that we're conscious until we enter relationships, and we truly commit to those relationships. As an example, I have experienced the notion of, you're serious with someone, you have moved in with someone, you're living with someone, and oh my god, it's like chaos, because you get triggered by so many things, the other person gets triggered, and you experience this vulnerability where you have a conflict, you sit and you see if the other person wants to resolve it, and you see if you want to resolve it, because you know relationships always reflect what we're not conscious of. So we experience these moments when we want to withdraw, we want to feel safe, because this certain trigger that we experience was, we didn't experience it well before in childhood with our parents. And the same goes for introversion and extroversion. When I was talking about emotional and available people, for example, what they do is, in relationships, they talk to you and then they become cold. It's like this hot and cold that people call, they're hot, they're hot. They are they are available, they are communicative, they express themselves, and suddenly they're just gone. You feel like they don't care about you. They don't call you, they don't text you, they even ghost you for a certain period. It's like, here we have a lot of uh, different, situations. But they are basically, they withdraw from the connection, and you feel that emotionally. When someone is you're losing someone, and it's like, yeah, they're here, but not like before. That's like the emotional uh kind of sensation when you're losing someone, because relationships, just like every connection, is like an emotional contract. And it's, you feel it when you talk to someone. As an example, you can talk to someone and not have an emotional contract. As an example, you go to the store, you buy, I don't know, some candy or something, and you don't feel that emotional uh kind of contract, because you both know your purpose. Okay, like, I'm buying the candy, the person works as a shop assistant, or and so a cashier. And you go home, you say goodbye, goodbye, and that's it. But when you start to, as an example, become friends with someone, you feel this emotional, like, contract. You feel like this urge, oh, I want to talk to that person, and that person also talks to you, and it's like, here the dynamics begin. And just like every connection that also amplifies what we are not conscious of, and we amplify what the other person is not conscious of. It's like we're mirroring each other. The relationships are much more different when it comes to deeper in a sense, because we have this intimacy in every aspect. If And again, the situation varies, because depends on how much you're seeing that person, what kind of the stage of the relationship, if you're living with the person. So and this is, as an example, the phase that almost every relationship starts with is the honeymoon phase. That's how they call it. Everything is great because you both focus on each other's positive aspects, and the potential, so to speak, how much they can meet your needs and all of that. That's the phase, the honeymoon phase, where you feel completely uh completed and happy, and you feel appreciated, you feel loved, and the other person feels that way. You appreciate the other person, and then we have this next stage where everything gets so serious, because you start to see each other as you truly are. And here also, when we're talking about the extroversion and introversion factors, here's where they basically display each other. Because, as an example, because of how we are taught and our social beliefs passed on us, and from our parents, and how we exchange them and all of that, we are taught to, unfortunately, to show sides of us that are only approved. And what happens is that, when we meet someone, or the other person meets us, like if we're talking about these two different perspectives, um, we or the other person can be more extroverted at the beginning when we talk, because that's more approved. And then when we pass this honeymoon stage, so to speak, um, the other person, as an example, becomes more introverted, because that's the let's say the more true state of how the person feels, and the true what they are in the moment. And so we get confused, because like, oh, this is not the person I've met. Because this happens because the person only had shown us, aspects of her or him that are only approved. And this is why also the dating world is such a mess. It's like, you meet someone, you go on a date, everything is great. Suddenly, oh, sorry, I got very
Yeah,
dramatic
exactly.
here.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was very dramatic.
that's yeah, that's the
Just
reaction
suddenly,
of
just
the dating
boom.
world. Exactly. Um, and you suddenly get ghosted. It's like, I have a friend, as an example, he who uses Tinder, and she studies in France, and she met like a French guy, never mind. And the date was awesome. She described it as, oh, we went to a restaurant, we ate some food, it was great, the conversation was great. And suddenly he was nowhere to be found. I'm so confused. Like, what should I do about this? And I just don't know what to say to her, because that person only showed her, the approved aspects. And then I guess that's the ghosting itself is the action that tells you what he truly, thinks. And I thought, how should I say this to her? Maybe she'll be really disappointed, because you know if he didn't text her, or if he ghosted her, that means that he's not interested. And this is very painful, because there's no honesty, there's no truth. It's like, you better tell the person, okay, the date was great, I enjoyed it, but we are not compatible, I can see this and that. It's like everything can be so healthy, but because of this pressure that we we have all the time to be approved and to strive for approval, instead of expressing how we truly feel, we unconsciously even hurt each other. And then this world becomes such an unsafe world to live in. It's like how, and every introverted person is right, it has every right to to ask this question, how why should I trust other people? And that's a very valid question to ask. It's like, and you need to go through this trial and error until you find the people that you can truly depend on, and you need to experience the pain, and to relive, or to dive into the trauma that you experienced, in order to, okay, to decide something else, to start listening to your internal compass, to get in touch with your emotions, to bring a different resolve to the situation or what happened, or the coping strategy. And so this is why relationships are so beautiful when it comes to, you know uh just like what you asked me, extroversion and introversion, and how that how we can see from ourselves and from other people in relationships. And especially for self evaluation, this is a very beautiful, tool for self awareness, and for you can find out a lot more about yourself from connections and relationships than being by yourself. Because there's this meme also that I was looking at a lot recently. It was something like, uh you think you're a conscious person, then get back to your home, and see how conscious you are. And it's like, it has some truth in that, it's and or with your ex partner, or with someone else, it's very interesting. The environment also plays a very important role into self-awareness. And so if we avoid exposing ourselves to the world, we'll never have the opportunity to to get conscious about what we do, how we cope, how we say things, how we think things, so what we feel, why we say, and our purpose, our life. Like, it's like people are our mirrors, and we always see what we resist and what we accept about ourselves and other people. It's like that's why a lot of people who are similar tend to think that they're similar, because they accept the same things about themselves, and when they see each other, they see the things that they accept about themselves, and they think, oh yeah, that's similar, like I'm the same. And what's very interesting in this aspect is that this kind of attitude of sameness doesn't always guarantee you expansion and self-awareness. This doesn't mean that you need to get yourself involved with abusive people, or people who trigger you, or who say that uh s- gaslight you, or just convince you that you're not good enough. Not at all. Like, what I'm saying is that you know it's very interesting, an interesting journey, as an example for me, to get to know a lot of people who are different in a sense. They have this different attitude, um different beliefs, different ways of coping, different ways of. It's like you see those people as something introspective for you. You question those things. As an example, you may meet someone who is sexist. Let's just give this person as an example. And you are triggered by this kind of opinion, and that doesn't mean that you need to accept it, or not at all. Like, what I'm talking about is the just the moment where you notice what is triggered inside of you. It's like, okay, and as an example, you may be triggered by that sexism because of, as an example, your dad was sexist, or your dad told you things, if you're a girl, like told you what your role is, or just tried to assert those kinds of sexist beliefs on you, and you're triggered by that, and it's normal. It's like, but the moment where you are triggered and you see that, you know uh how that impacts you, is just invaluable lesson. It's like, okay, I don't agree with this person, I don't like that, but I learned something. You use everything as an opportunity. And that's why I was the reason why I was talking about this example, or with connections in general, is because I wanted to imply that relationships are something that we all need to try. It's like they're very essential. And in today's age, we see a lot of people who are single and want to be single. That's great, if that's authentic for you. But if you truly strive to be conscious and to be self-aware and to expand in every sense, to help other people, to it's just, you need relationships. And yes, they can get uncomfortable, and but and also annoying at times, but you miss a very big opportunity if you just isolate yourself from that. And that's why I also noticed this was resistance to marriages and to those kinds of commitments. Uh in today's, I just did a research on, actually, on um how dating apps influence the culture, what how beliefs, family dynamics, and beliefs from the participants' parents um influence their stance on committing to relationships, serious, unserious relationships, one night stands. And what I noticed is that it's insane how how the attitude towards serious relationships just went to the other extreme. you know uh if we turn back like 50 years back if we turn back 50 years, we will notice that relationships were much more serious. Marriages were a thing. It's as an example, in my country, my parents had this, I mean, they told me that they had this social norm that if the mother is pregnant and they're not married, if the woman is pregnant and she's not married to the man that she got pregnant with, that's something to be ashamed about. And I remember a lot of people, older generations, were talking about how women hid their bellies. We have this just so like a serious stance on relationships, and now we have this completely different like pendulum swing, where we don't want to commit at all. And it's like there's no middle line. We're all just confused because we're taught different like values from back then, and some may be oppressed by such values, and now we are here just lingering, doing something, avoiding relationships and being single, and doing one night stands. And it's like everyone is just so confused.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Like the swing over? Is it just yeah? Why do you think people just swung to the other extreme?
It's a response, just like everything else. Everything is
Response
a
to
response to a trigger, or to it, it's just so different for everyone. uh it really depends from the individual in the situation, the beliefs, the culture, the gender, what the gender role, or what the gender was, uh, what it meant in the culture, and the roles that the gender needs to play. And we have so many intertwined social contexts, and it's like, but what I can see the most, as the reason that I can see the most about this kind of like pendulum swing, is because of it's it's being afraid to feel and to re-experience things from the past. Is I see that as uh the core root, of every kind of escapism. And that's why we withdraw from people. We don't want to reach out to the world because the world is unsafe. That's absolutely true. It's like, as children, especially when we don't have, um I'm saying this about people who are in this situation where they don't have that backbone that I mentioned. It's like Without that backbone, we are left to fight the world on ourselves. And it's like, okay, the only way to adapt to that world, because I don't have my parents as an example, the only way to fight the world is alone, because I can depend on my parents. And so that's the dynamic that we learn. And the same reflects in relationships. You meet someone, you like them, but you withdraw emotionally because you're too afraid to commit, because you know that if this is a matter of choice at this point. You either choose, I'm going to commit to this and accept changes, or I'm gonna stick to what I was taught and what I learned in my childhood by myself. And so you have everyone chooses different things. And so, but the choices that are most made are involving, withdrawing. uh, yeah, and it's very sad, honestly. It's, from one point it's very understandable, because we all need to get burned in order to, find these right people and find out what we want. That's the concept of contrast. When it comes to light and contrast, it's like we need contrast in order to find the light, and etc. When we see the light, we see the contrast. But it, it, we miss so much. We miss so many opportunities, and it's quite sad in my view. You know.
Yeah. And a final question here, or kind of running out of time, but
Yes.
would it be like maybe a self reflection or like a exercise that you can give people to help them kind of explore within themselves, like maybe the investment trauma that they have, or maybe different unhealthy patterns relationally or in their relationships.
Oh,
What are
yeah.
some exercises that you can leave somebody with?
Well, my final and most important message is: stop telling yourself how you need to feel, and get the courage to assess how you feel at the moment, to notice. And so be like, okay, I don't feel like I don't feel well, and as an example, I have this project to do, but I'm gonna get the courage and be present with the fact that I feel apathetic and I don't feel like doing anything, and I dread everything. It's like, you need to stop telling yourself how you feel. If you truly want to access how you feel, you need to stop looking at that through the lens of right and wrong. It's like, all of that is just your rational mind. If you truly want to make a change, you need to get, the balls to feel, literally. Just feel. There is nothing, not, you have the access to every tool. You have as many tools as you want. Just feel. Start with that. And don't cope with any tool. Just feel at the beginning. That's my final message.
All right, awesome. And where can people find you for people that are watching you for the
Well, I
first time?
have a yeah, I have a YouTube channel called Wunderkammer, Wunderkammer. That's how it's spelled. And on Instagram, Katerina Lunas. I have also another channel where I experiment and do different stuff. Katerina Lunas. That's how it's spelled. So if you want to see more, check me out. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you for coming on.
I'm so grateful for being here.